Matt, we have a former title challenger taking on a school teacher who turns 43 on the day of the fight. We have Raquel Pennington taking on Marion Reneau, top-rated bantamweights. And do you think there's a title shot coming out of this fight for the winner? Probably not. I think the winner of Irene Aldana and Holly Holm probably going to get that title shot. But an interesting fight nonetheless between Pennington and Marion Reneau. And Matt, I was actually surprised because if you look at Raquel Pennington's record over the last 4 fights, she's just 1-3. But it's a big and telling win over Irene Aldana, nonetheless, that she has spread out there. The loss to Nunes, the loss to Durandamy, and the loss to Holly Holm, all-timers, some might say, in those divisions. And on the opposite side for Marion Reneau, it's been 2 straight losses to Kat Zingano and then Yana Kunitskaya in a fight that, if you just look at it on paper and say, okay, she lost a decision fight to Yana Kunitskaya, what's the difference? Go and watch that fight. She really, really hurt Yana Kunitskaya in that one, but was unable to match the volume of Kunitskaya in order to get the win. I believe it was a unanimous 29-28 verdict for Kunitskaya to get the win there. I was surprised that the odds favor Raquel Pennington. I know they are close. They're roughly -140 for Pennington, plus 110 for Reneau. It's not often you get a fresh 43-year-old coming into a fight with this many fights as a pro, 9-5-1 coming into this one. And you got Pennington at 10-8, kind of the saltier record on the opposite side, but she has fought top competition for the very longest of times. Over on Tapology, out of 807 votes, overwhelming majority, 87% predicting Raquel Pennington to get the win. So now we have to kind of talk technique because you got to back up all the stats and all the jibber jabber. Raquel Pennington, for her to win, she's got to be all over her opponent. Is Marion Reneau the type of opponent that she can just kind of push the pace on?
Oh, 100%. Because here's the thing with Marion Reneau, and again, bringing this term up again, the Louis Smolka effect is in full effect with Marion Reneau. It could be the Marion Reneau effect, really, because the Kat Zingano fight kind of tells you everything you need to know about Marion Reneau's game. She's a good striker, oddly heavy-handed for the division too. The Sarah McMahon's fight's a pretty good example where she was getting dominated on the ground, and then the second round lands a big overhand left, I think it was, drops Sarah McMahon, gets on top of her and chokes her. It was a really impressive win. But Reneau doesn't really have the wrestling to get the fight to her strength, which is her jiu-jitsu. Because on the mat, Marion Reneau is an absolute monster for the most part. And she's good at off her back. She's got good triangles. She's good at taking the back. She's got good rear naked choke. She's good at everything. She's a great grappler. But the problem is her wrestling isn't very good. And so she's just kind of not able to go to her best skill. Raquel Pennington, on the other hand, phenomenal wrestler. Her striking's not great, but she's just a very busy striker, kind of in that Clay Guida effect where she's always throwing something. There's not a lot of just open space and kind of stalling out portions in her fights. And the Holly Holm loss, again, she lost to Holly Holm, but that was one of the worst fights ever because it was just Holly Holm holding her up against the clinch for the vast majority of it. Normally when you lose to Holly Holm, you would think, oh, she must have got picked apart at range. But no, I'm going to say something that I've been saying for a very long time. If Holly Holm doesn't knock you out, it's the most boring fight you're ever going to see because the majority of her fights aren't that exciting unless they end in a finish.
I thought the Megan Anderson fight was exciting, but we'll continue on.
She just took down like the worst wrestler ever. But again, I think it is a really interesting fight because Raquel Pennington does a lot of things well that Marion Reneau struggles with, but the things that Marion Reneau excels at, she really excels at and has a big advantage over Raquel Pennington in.
That's the thing for Raquel Pennington. There's a lot of parts of her game that she brings together and makes whole. Versus Marion Reneau, where she has all of those parts and they're so good, but they don't kind of come together and complement each other. She's great on the ground, but not so much off her back. Raquel Pennington's a decent enough wrestler to get out of some of those bad positions. In terms of clinch work, you'd have to favor Raquel Pennington. Hopefully the weight cut doesn't become an issue, which it has in the past before, so maybe watch out for that one. And it's very interesting. She's fighting on the card. Tecia Torres fighting on the card as well. In terms of the odds, I already brought them up. The Tapology picks as well. Overwhelming majority going with Raquel Pennington. This is one of those fights where the odds might look juicy. It's one of those ones that I wouldn't touch because they're too close and you don't really know what you're going to get. But in terms of a prediction, the 10-8 is probably going to go to an 11-8. I'm going to be going with Raquel Pennington. Do you agree here?
I do. I think Pennington's going to be able to get a decision. Now, I will say, if there's a finish in this fight, it's because Marion Reneau either knocked her out or choked her out. She just has a much more finishing-oriented style, whereas Pennington is very much, I'm just going to kind of grind, and then we'll see what the judges say at the end of it. So I do think Pennington's going to be able to get the win, but I do think it's a very competitive matchup.
Interesting fight in terms of the entire makeup of the women's bantamweight division. You're going to want to keep it locked in with the rest of our predictions for the card. An extended look at our main event between Curtis Razor Blaydes and Alexander Volkov. Matt, keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, as we always say. Let's get into it.